What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Merge Tactics video. This one is a bit special. Today we are joined by the man, the myth, the legend, MOLT. What is going on, brother? How have you been?
What's going on, man? Hey, guys, JCE reached out to me and he was like, do you want to do a collab? And I was like, yes, I do. So I'm really excited for what we're going to talk about today. We need you guys to comment down below what y'all would like to see from us, because there's no friendly battles or anything like that in Merge right now, so it's a little difficult to do collaboration, but I feel like there's lots of opportunities there. So make sure you guys comment down below in his comment section about what you guys would like to see us do. And then after your video, we're going to do one on my channel as well, right?
100%. Yeah, make sure you guys check out the description. It'll be linked in there. You can go ahead to his channel and check that out. But yeah, I agree, guys. Let me know what you guys want to see. I mean, you know, the Clash Royale space is huge with collabs right now. We're actually just talking about that. And, you know, with Merge Tactics, it's a deep game. It's a strategy intense game. There's a lot of different ideas and, you know, future things that we would love to see come to the game. And so today we're going to be talking a bit about that. But first, I want to talk about the balance changes that recently came to the game. Huge wave of balance changes, different traits, different modifiers. Yeah. Anything and everything was changed. What do you think? Do you think overall, were they positive? Were they negative? What's your opinion on that?
I think overall they were positive. I like the fact that Rangers was really annoying in the first season, but that's probably just because of the repetition of it. It was like either Rangers or Clan. But in this new season, I've felt kind of underwhelmed with Rangers. And so the fact that they moved the stack up and everything, they feel like they're a little bit better. I feel like the Electro Giant could still use something. He feels super weak. I
completely agree. That was one. I'm glad you brought him up. He was you know, a great concept of a card. I mean, you get the stuns, you get the extra HP on the front line, you get the pairing there, and I think he's a great concept, but he just doesn't do what he should do. I think it should be, you know, if they're going to really lower his damage, and honestly his HP isn't great compared to what he is in normal Clash. He's not that much of a threat, and so I think they need to make him, you know, stun more often. And that's kind of the point with the whole electric modifier, right? Because the E-Wiz, you know, stuns everybody for a few seconds, and then the E-Giant is stunning people, and then, you know, the lightning comes and strikes, and it strikes people more for if they're stunned and whatnot. And so I think they need to play into that a bit more, because I agree he feels pretty weak. And yeah, I'm 100% on your side with Rangers. I was playing all different kinds of Rangers comps last season. They were fun, you know, and now it seemed like you said, for the first while, they were bad. They were straight up bad. I just wasn't seeing them.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad they're kind of back in the meta. What do you think about the Goblin rework? You know, when you can get a Dark Goblin now for having two. You know, you're guaranteed to get a Dark Goblin or a Goblin Machine.
Right. I think that it's good with the Queen. But there have been times where I've been playing the Empress, and like before, if you had the Stab Goblin and the Spirit Goblin, you were like, okay, I'm guaranteed a merge here.
Yep.
And now it feels like every time I get the Dark Goblin, and so I don't get the merge, so I'm not able to sell and get that early elixir advantage. And so, I mean, if you're using the Queen, then it seems like it's good, but there have been times where I've used it with the Empress, and I'm like annoyed because I don't get my merge to kind of start snowballing the elixir gain. But that's early game stuff. Late game, I think that it helps, but also people don't really go for goblins late game that much.
No, and I completely agree. You know, that when you're playing Empress, those first, you know, 2 rounds are so crucial. You know, you want to get your goblins, you want to start your elixir flowing, because once you flip that switch, I mean, then it's just a matter of, you know, looking for comps, what can I play, and you got to start that. So I agree. I mean, there's been times I had them both out there, and then I get a Dark Goblin, I'm like, okay, what do I do with this? You know, I guess I'm going for Rangers now.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely a different thing to navigate with the Empress now. And I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead because we'll talk about rulers later, but it's definitely a weird, you know, kind of line to walk, because you don't go for 4 goblins in Empress, but everybody playing Queen is going for 4 goblins. So then you're lucky to get Goblin Machines if you're going for Empress. And so that kind of changes the whole meta. You know, what can you go for with Empress? So I think it was pretty good overall, just to kind of switch things up, because that's what I feel like there's been a lot of a lack of, especially last season, was variety.
Oh, for sure.
Like you said, Clan and Rangers. And I feel like, you know, this season they're bringing a whole lot more, you know, different stuff. What what different comps can you run? A lot of 2 out of 4 comps. Yeah, what do you think? What do you think about the undead changes? I know they buffed both Royal Ghost and Skeleton Dragons, and the 6 out of 6 is crazy. I think I saw that you just released a video where you got those. Yeah. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Just the amount of HP. So I think there's a lot of comps that we're going to see coming out of the woodwork kind of with Undead. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree, because you can build into it so easily with different things. You can go Undead Assassins, you can go Undead Rangers. So it creates that flexibility to where you can get a 2 out of 4 synergy to help counter something. Say you're playing Rangers and you go up against someone with Assassins, then you can just still have Undead but throw in Juggernauts or something if you didn't have it before. So I think that being able to have lots of opportunities with Undead, because Undead is such a cool mechanic, like lowering health, and then if you're able to target with, by the way, I'm not gonna say blasters, they're still throwers.
I do the same thing,
like
every time.
The Executioner and the Spear Goblin still throw stuff.
100%. Yeah, yep. I'm in the same boat.
But the fact that Undead lowers health and you can either target those units with Assassins or with throwers or whatever, I think is cool. I definitely think that Undead is one of the more, I don't know, widespread synergies that you can kind of work with if you find yourself not sure what you're building into yet.
100%. And I found that a lot with the last season. I was playing Undead Assassins a whole lot at the very end just because it was a surprise factor. People didn't expect, hey, half my HP's gone. Oh, now there's a Golden Knight on my backline troop that was my crutch, and then now my 4-star princess is gone, and it's kind of fun, and that's what I love about, a lot of people have had different thoughts about the card pool and increasing to 26 cards, and is it good to have this many cards? Harder to get merges, whatnot, slows the game down, sure, but I think the variety and giving people more options, and okay, well, I don't have to go for clan or throwers or rangers. I can go for some weird team over here that has 6 traits, and I think that's been fantastic for the game. So I'm a huge fan of the balance changes overall. I think they hit most of the stuff. I mean, especially Ace. Ace was struggling in my opinion this season to kind of have a place. I still don't know whether the 4 out of 4 is really viable. I think 2 out of 4 is pretty good, but what do you think are some things that they might have missed? What else do you think they should have balanced, or what are some just changes in general that you'd want to see come to the game?
Yeah, well, I'm very happy that they hit the baby dragon with a nerf, because it was freaking insane for a while. I think that the Golden Knight still feels really strong when it hits. Like it can be it can completely shut you down.
Yeah.
So I think that's one that they can maybe still do, I don't know, some tweaking with, to where like maybe it hits more frequently, but it does less damage on the dash. So that, I don't know, because it's a very polarizing card. Like sometimes it never gets a dash off, and you're like, that's a waste of a card. And then other times it completely carries the game for you.
I agree.
So it feels like there's a little bit of randomness in that. And then sticking with Noble, I feel like the Prince, if the Prince is 3 tiles away from something, I feel like it should charge again. So like, let's say it hits something in the front line, and then your other units clear it out, and then it's 3 tiles, because it's rare that it would be 3 tiles away from something.
I agree, yeah.
But I feel like once it charges, it kind of just feels like it's there. And it can be utilized, especially, like, I love it once you level it up to knock stuff back to let your princess hit. Like, there's ways to make it be super effective. But a lot of times it just feels like it's, I don't know, it's the lame Noble. Like, it doesn't feel like it does as much as it should. So I think that'd be kind of a cool thing, that if maybe it could speed up and charge again if it was 3 tiles away or something like that, because it doesn't happen too frequently. But Prince is just one of those that I still kind of think about.
Yeah, he could definitely change in a few ways. I feel like, especially with Brawlers, because that's what was super popular at the beginning of the season. Everybody was like, wow, Brawlers got a huge buff. Prince got his stats nerfed a lot. But I feel when you play that team, the whole kind of deal is like, well, you need your G Skelly to die first so that he can stun everybody and do the damage, but then your Prince is charging head first and dies in 2 seconds, and it just doesn't kind of work with the chemistry of the team. So I think you're right. I feel like there's a lot more that they could do with Prince to make him, he's a 3 elixir card, so his ability doesn't need to be crazy, but I don't feel like it's enough to make him, oh, I better block Prince because this guy could get a 3-star Prince and that could be bad for me. I don't think I've blocked Prince like, at all this season. Not gonna lie. But yeah, brawlers are another one that I think could still be maybe not balanced anymore. I think they're in a good spot, but tweaked a bit because there's just nothing special about it. It feels like at Supercell they were like, okay, we got all these super awesome traits figured out. We need some for brawlers. Let's just give them extra HP or something like that. And it doesn't really play into the brawler theme. And so maybe they kind of take part of what Ace has and like a bit of what Clan has to maybe their damage replenishes their HP or something like that.
Right.
I feel like, even within that, some of the troops don't fit, like Giant Skeleton. You want him to die soon. And he getting that extra HP does not help you accomplish that goal. And so I think that one thing that they could really do, and it would work very well, would be, swap Giant Skeleton and E-Giant, swap those traits. So give Giant Skeleton the Avenger trait and give E-Giant the Brawler trait. Because, E-Giant, you want it to have that extra HP. You want him to be survivable, to get those stuns off.
Yeah.
And then the Giant Skeleton, you want him to die. And when he dies, you're one step closer to getting your bonus damage on your Avenger. Right. So I think that's a really, really good spot right there, where they could, kind of help out both teams a bit and kind of give both of those troops, which are good troops when they work, kind of give them a good home. In my opinion, I don't know.
No, for sure. I feel like you could even make the Prince like when he dies, he hops off of his horse or something and keeps fighting. That feels like something that a brawler would do.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Your horse dies, now you're gonna just like keep fighting. Because I feel like historically in jousts, that was what would happen.
100%.
If you knocked somebody off of their horse, they would continue to fight, and that's kind of what his thing is. But that's all. Yeah, I don't know. That just kind of came to me while you were talking.
And the thing is,
like it would fit the brawler thing.
Yeah, right. With Merge and Clash Royale, they don't have to mirror each other 100%.
Yeah, like the Musketeer.
Yeah, Musketeer, exactly. The knockback, the stuns. I think that's fantastic mechanics, and it definitely gives you something more to play around. I think that's a card that has really kind of switched things up, and I love it. I think it has a home with a lot of place, with a lot of teams, and it's so usable in so many instances. Like, okay, well, this guy's got huge assassins, and they're gonna torture my backline. Well, let's get a Musk to knock him back, and stuff like that. And so I think there's a whole lot more that they can do with that. Some other different mechanics and advanced mechanics, because it's not an easy card. It has knockback, it has stuns, it has to charge it up, its damage increases on the stunned attacks, stuff like that, where they've just really spent some time on that card. I think there's a lot of the other cards that could stand for some tweaks like that. Does Dark Goblin need to be something else? Because I feel like you got Spear Goblin, you got Dark Goblin, you got Archer, you got all these cards that are single target range. Even Witch, when she's not spawning skeletons, is a single target range. Is there stuff where you bring in the poison from Evo Dark Goblin, and then now he does poison damage and a 2 hex radius or whatever. I don't know, stuff like that where they could add more and just complicate it a bit to where there's other things you got to think of. Where your positioning matters. Okay, well, I can't put all my troops in this one circle because they've got a princess and a Dark Goblin. They do a lot of splash damage now with the poison. So stuff like that. What do you think about? What do you think about the Goblin Queen ability? That's something that I feel like they released at 40%. And of course, at the same time, that was when Spirit Empress had the +3 elixir, so all of that was going on, where it was like a mess. But I feel like that, and I do like the balance they brought, obviously, because it does give you some more certainty. Like, okay, I know I'm going to get a 3 or 4 elixir goblin when I have the 4 out of 4, but it can still be so unfair, I guess is kind of the word, when somebody else gets 5 kills and they get 3 goblin machines out of it, and you get 5 kills and you get 1 stab goblin, and those are where you have all these different goblin queens playing against each other, and it just doesn't kind of even out. So what are your thoughts there? You think there's something they could tweak?
I always try and retain the perspective of developers and how difficult it must be to handle something like RNG. Like, I don't know how you code something to randomly happen, but also have parameters that still make it feel inviting to everybody.
Sure.
Because like you said, games like that where you're playing the Goblin Queen and you're like, dude, I just took out 5 people and got one thing. Like, you kidding me?
Right.
Like, it creates an emotional experience for people, especially if they aren't sitting down and playing for a while, to where they're like, okay, I don't want to play this random game. It doesn't feel like it's skill based right now. And you experience that a lot with games, and it's something that needs a lot of attention from developers, but I can imagine is incredibly difficult to try and allow randomness to exist, but also have parameters to where somebody gets 3 and somebody gets 2. So it's not like that big of an advantage. Like, it's like when you go into a game and somebody has a 3-star on round 2, and you're like, I haven't even gotten a merge and it's round 4. What the heck is going on?
Exactly.
Like, it's just it's difficult. I think the Goblin Queen is super fun because, again, nobody really, like, it made people start going with 4 goblins, which is cool because you didn't really see that too much. People would get the goblins and then kind of cycle out because they would never win really against Clan Avengers and stuff last season. So it is fun to see all of the goblins and for people to be able to go Rangers and Assassins with it and all of that kind of stuff. It's just that randomness that, like, it's their job to figure out.
Yeah.
It's our job to be like, hey, this is a problem. It's creating an odd experience for players, and if you don't figure it out, then your player base is going to be upset about this and move on to something else. And, like, nowadays when it comes to gaming, there's so many other options. There's so many other things. People will go pick up TikTok or Instagram or X, whatever. And so you have to keep them interested. And handling RNG is one of those things that you have to do to keep people interested.
Yeah, keep people engaged 100%. I mean, that's a fantastic segue. And that's a big question I have. And honestly, it's a question that a lot of people, I don't know what your comments are like, but there's every video, it seems like there's those comments and they're like, man, RNG is the worst thing ever. I can't win. I've lost 7 games in a row. There's part of that where it's like, okay, so we get to a point where, are we blaming the RNG? Are you just missing stuff?
Right.
But then there's games I play and I'm like, okay, so here I am sitting in round 4 and I haven't seen a single merge yet. Somebody sent me, a screenshot in Discord. They're like, hey, I'm in round 6. I haven't seen a single merge and stuff like that. I mean, it's definitely a hard line to walk, because they want it to be an engaging experience. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm going to get. I got to plan around different stuff. But what do you think? Do you feel like, because some of their complaints are justified. Do you feel like the game is too RNG heavy, and should they add more skill-based elements?
Right. I think so here's the thing. If you look at it from a deeper standpoint, the reason that we aren't getting merges by round 4 is because we're buying units that other people are buying as well. But we just don't have enough time early on to, like, look at what everybody's buying. And now the board, like, people's bench is invisible, so you can't really tell what they're going for. And so, like, yeah, there is strategy in making sure that you're not pursuing the things that other people are pursuing. But also at the same time, like, I messaged the team today because I got 4th place, 3rd place, 4th place, and I got 1 merge by round 4 in all of those. And I was like, this just isn't fun. And, like, yeah, I could probably be doing something a little bit better, but also you're inside of Clash Royale, which is a 3-minute game, which is designed to be casual. It's designed to be like a bathroom game or a line game. And so if you're going to be doing that, then you need to realize that a lot of times people aren't going to be focusing too heavily and, like, switching back and forth between their opponents and all this kind of stuff, and then micromanaging everything. So the beginning, it just feels like you shouldn't be able to go past round 3 without a merge. Like, there should almost be a guaranteed merge by round 3 in some sense. Because, it starts to get to that point where it's like, all right, this isn't fun. And then you just leave. And for content creators, it's a little bit different because we play a lot, we're super focused, we're creating content, and it's a part of something that we do for a job. But you have to think about the casual people and how, like, man, the number of times that I would have just closed the game
100%
after that is, like, really big. And they need to worry about that because when people close your game, you're losing fans, you're losing their commitment to your game, and then ultimately you're losing money. And, like, merge is still in that test phase.
It is.
Of seeing if it's going to last. And, like, I know all of us want it to. I really hope that it's going
100%.
to. But I do think that I think this season has been a huge step in the right direction. But RNG is something that is still like, all right, we got to figure this out. We got to kind of tweak some things so it feels a little more inviting.
Yeah, and it's a hard line to walk. I mean, like, so, you know, like you said, there's us as content creators who are like, okay, we play the game maybe more than anybody. We understand the ins and outs. You know, we know the strategy. We know what we're trying to do. And we see that, you know, in the as little as it is, there is kind of a competitive scene. You know, people trying to be number one on the leaderboard, and I mean, at least in my community, and I'm assuming in yours as well, there's a lot of, you know, most of the community are people who are really, you know, into the game mode and they enjoy playing it, and obviously they're on our channels checking out content. But if you take them out of the picture, I mean, how many people out there, you know, play a few games a day because it's a cool mode. Maybe they like the strategy in it more than normal Clash Royale, and how frustrated are they when they're not even, you know, tapped in, like they don't even know what forcing a cycle is, and they're like, okay, well, here we go, I can't get high star cards, and here's a guy coming with a 3-star Golden Knight. Guess I'm done for the day, and that's hard for you know, the whole game to have a you know, kind of a whole community that loves it, but then at the same time they get so frustrated with it that it's a hard balance to walk. And unfortunately, they take that a lot on the developers when they realize, well, they're trying to do the same thing by making a game that's both engaging but also, you know, structured enough to where, hey, you know, across 40 games, you're probably going to have just as much luck as you do, you know, misfortune. And it's just weird how it's all clumped up. So it's definitely something that could be tweaked in a few ways. But like you said, I mean, we're in the early stages. There's still, I mean, it's only what we're in October now. It's only 4 or 5 or 3-4 months old at this point, and for a very juvenile game like that, I think it's in a pretty good spot. But that leads right into the next point, and that's what do you think? What do you think they could do financially to kind of support the development? Because you're right, there's a lot of development in this game. And, you know, the only things that we've seen so far that are specific are two $20 skins. I know I bought them both, but I haven't seen a single other purchased Goblin Queen skin, and only like 2 for Spirit Empress. So what do you think they could do there? Our skins, you know, even Tower and the blast that they do for the damage. You know, is that viable? Will they be able to make that a good revenue structure, or how can they support, you know, the hours that are going in from their team making this game mode possible?
Yeah. I think first there needs to be a better partnership between regular Clash Royale and Merge. Like regular Clash Royale needs to point more towards Merge through, like, if you do something on the regular ladder, it gives you something in Merge, or if you play Merge and achieve X, Y, or Z, let's say you make it to Diamond in Merge, then you get something in the regular game mode as well. So you're having people flow in there, you're having them experiment, you're having them learn. Like, we see this with so many of it's so easy to think that Merge is its own game. Like, I say that so often in videos. I'm like, this game, and it's like, well, no, this is a mode inside of Clash Royale. But you see those collaborations between, like, Brawl Stars and Clash of Clans, or Clash of Clans and Clash Royale, where they, like, do all this crossover, and Merge kind of just feels like it's hidden. And it's like, if you guys are putting so much time into this from a development standpoint, and it has its own team, like Draft Mode doesn't have its own team, but like Merge has its own team. If we're putting this time into this, let's promote it a little bit more on the regular Clash Royale side to get people in there to experience it, whatever. Or maybe you get, if you do something inside of Merge, you unlock a skin for the regular game, or the regular game unlocks something inside of Merge. I do think projectiles is a great monetization strategy. I think $20 is ridiculous. You can't expect everybody to be able to do that. I feel like there should be like $1.99,
of course,
Merge emotes that you only get in Merge. And then you know that people who are playing on the regular ladder are going to want the emotes because everybody collects them. So it's like you either make them purchase it there, or if you hit diamonds, you get an emote that nobody else gets. So people go and play Merge. Like, they have to work together. It's like, it's a business. And it's kind of crazy that this isn't happening, that there's like a more obvious crossover, because it's going to make them a lot of money. But I think a $4.99 projectile or something like that, where the projectile does something. I think that they need to have arena skins where, like, if you've ever played Hearthstone or games like that,
100%.
Half of the map is my skin, half of the map is your skin, that sort of thing. And those could be, I don't know, $7, whatever, because it takes up the whole thing. But they need to have a wide variety of price points. And then I think there needs to be more crossover, like I said, between regular Clash Royale and merge tactics. And then I bet you'd see a lot of income go into it, honestly.
Yeah, that's the biggest thought I had too, is that, they have them in the same, in the same application. And I think that's good. I think that's healthy. I think if they took, merge tactics to its own app, that would, demand a whole lot more, from a revenue standpoint. And I don't think that it's really ready to support that. And honestly, I don't hope they ever do. I really like that it's in the same application, and tie it together. So if you want it to be, a successful game mode where people want to play it, but of course you want people to come to play the game because they enjoy it, not because, okay, I have to hit this emo, but maybe they just haven't given it a shot. I mean, I can't tell you how many content creators out there I've seen that have zero star steal on their account. And it's just because, they're not giving it a shot. They don't think, it's either fun enough, or they don't see the reason to play it. And if we give them reason to play it, how many out there are going to be like, wow, I actually do enjoy this? How many casual players are going to be, wow, I actually do really enjoy this. It's different. If I lost 4 games on, Trophy Road or Ladder, maybe I go play a merge game or something to cool myself off,
Right.
And putting, locking, like you said, emotes that you can use in both modes. I think emotes are definitely something they need to bring to merge. I mean, even let me use my crying goblin, when I 1v6 a guy's team, but it's something that they could cross over, like you said. And even we see that a bit. You get a legendary for each legendary in the game when you reach 2500 and then 2750 and stuff like that, and that's good. That's really good for new players. I think people who are just downloading the game and they see, wow, I can go ahead and unlock these legendaries if I play merge tactics. Well, that's really good. You're getting the new players involved in merge tactics just as much as you are Clash Royale. But then, scale that up. So I'm on an almost maxed account that I play on. If you would give me, 5 or even 10 Goblin machines for getting to 2,900, well, yeah, I get to 2,900 because that's, how much is that? $10 when you math it out and stuff like that. So, doing stuff like that where they're really rewarding, both new players, mid-tier players, advanced players, giving them something to go for. Give them gold. Give them 100,000 gold if they reach diamond. 250,000 if they're level 50 and above or something like that. Give them something to play for, and when they're bored in the game and they want to push ladder, they're not ready to get to all champ yet or whatever. Give them something to do that is passive progression. I think that masteries are really cool. If you got nothing else to do, you hop into the classic 1v1 and work on your masteries. Well, let merge be part of that, where hey, you want to level yourself up without having to go risk your trophies and ladder. Well, come play merge. You can get your crowns, and that's awesome. Having crowns being able to be unlocked for merge is huge. And then get gold and whatever there. So yeah, I think that there's a lot more that they could do to encourage people to play it, which would in turn bring them revenue. But yeah, giving them cheaper options, projectiles, give them a cheap skin. And then I don't know if there's I don't know if you saw it, but there were some leaks that came out of like a king skin, like the Demon Fire King, which is a whole reskin of him. Those can be the expensive ones, maybe like 10 at the max, if we're being honest. But then, give them some different colorings, like we saw that were unlocked for free. Give them those for $1.99. Give them, like you said, the different arena skins. There's a whole lot they could do that people would pay for. At the end of the day, if you put it out there, some people are going to pay for it. And if you just spend a little time in your illustrating application, then you can make it and then just let the people pay for it, and you kind of get a good, a good revenue stream there. So I definitely think there's some things that we could do, that they could do, that they could do to bring that. I've got another big question for you, and it's kind of a two-part.
Yeah.
The first one is, what do you think they could bring to the game as far as buildings and spells? I know we saw some leaks of Goblin Cage being in there. It ultimately didn't make it in for the October season, but what do you think? Is there a future where they could put them in there? How would they work? What are your thoughts there?
I definitely think so. The way that I think spells would have to work is they would almost have to be like invisible traps. So you would put them on a tile, and if a unit moves on that tile, then the spell is activated. So like, let's say if the lightning spell is in there, then you choose 3 tiles. I guess you could choose wherever. You could put them on. It might be too strong if you put them on their side. I don't know. You could probably put it on their side, because otherwise, if the units don't come to yours, then it's kind of pointless. But I would say it'd be something like that, where it could be activated. So if you don't want your spell to go off immediately, but you can kind of figure out how things are going to move on their side coming towards you, like you could put a log spell like 2 rows back. So if you're playing Rangers and eventually their units walk towards you, then once they get close, they activate the log spell and it knocks back 3 tiles or whatever wide, and then the things roll back physically with that. Because obviously it's auto chess, so it's playing on its own.
Right.
So you wouldn't be able to activate anything while it's happening.
Exactly.
So I think that's the best way to do spells, but I think they should be hidden because you don't know when a spell is going to happen in the regular game. I guess you don't know when a unit's going to go down, but like still. So I think that'd be pretty cool, and that would just kind of, I mean, they could come up with so many cool new things, like a hole that a unit falls in and it gets stuck. Like I think about inside the Clash Royale IP, like a hole with a bunch of spikes in it that something goes into and takes damage, and it's in there for a couple seconds because it has to climb out or whatever you would say. And then they'd eventually take that into the regular game or something. I think that's the best way to kind of approach spells. I think with the Tesla, I think it should be hidden as well on whatever tile it is because it's a hidden Tesla. But then other ones, I think buildings you would just kind of put down and they would do their activation thing. I imagine most people would hide the buildings on their bench. Like if you have an Inferno tower, you would hide it and then throw it down at the last second, whatever, to try and mess with people. I definitely think there's a space for buildings and spells. I think spells, if they were hidden, would be really cool and would just add like a really fun element to it.
That's a really good mechanic, and I actually hadn't thought about that. You know, like you said, it is auto chess, and as cool as it would be to be like, okay, well, this guy's got 3 Rangers clumped up, let me throw a rocket out there. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But, you know, I really do like the idea of, you know, pre-placing it, and then if they walk into it, I mean, maybe it's something where you can't place it directly on their units, but with the lightning, for example, maybe you put it to a tile, like a tile to the right of their princess, or you surround all 3 tiles around the princess. That way, when it walks to all 3 or whatever, or space it out, of course, but it activates. I think that's fantastic. I do think that there are some that they could play around with, like you said, you know, bring a new card to merge and then put it into Clash. Even some like the Earthquake, you know, are there going to be these kind of counters that form when people, you know, if buildings are added, maybe buildings are a trait at first, and then you have like a fire building with Inferno Tower, an electric building with Tesla, obviously, but then when you have Earthquake, you know, maybe it does half the damage to troops and it does slow them down, but then it does twice the damage to buildings, and you carry these mechanics over where you can pre-place. It's like, okay, I was spectating this guy and he put his Tesla over here last time. Maybe he'll do the same thing. Let me pre-place my Earthquake on this ring of 3 tiles wide. And I think, again, because that adds a lot of strategy and a lot of forethought, and you got to be paying attention when you're spectating, and just makes it more engaging. Of course, that does play into the players who are really into it, and the skill players who can kind of predict stuff like that. And then eventually it just becomes normal Clash Royale when everybody's predicting everything, and it's just a brain game at that point. But no, I think there's definitely a space for it. I wish they would have brought, you know, the Goblin Cage out. It would have been interesting to see kind of how it worked with a trial run, because it was going to be a Goblin and a Brawler, which obviously had no building trait, and it was just going to be a building that people attacked, and then the Goblin pops out, and then he has the extra HP, and you know, he gives you a free Goblin with that synergy, and maybe they do stuff like that. You know, maybe Inferno Tower is a fire and an ace troop, you know, I mean, as far as traits go, but it's a building. And there's a lot they could bring. I mean, you know, I was thinking even spawners, you know, is Tombstone something that could go in there, and it just throws out skeletons. You know, we got Witch in there now. We got, you know, Skeleton King. It's the infrastructure's there. It's just stuff that they could add. And I do think that they should keep the card pool relatively small, or similar to what it is. I think if you have 40 cards in there and everybody can have a 3-star team, and it's just a race to who can be fastest, and that's not as much fun. But you know, definitely try it out. Maybe in the November season they bring in Tombstone and Goblin Cage and just see what it's like for a season. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more they could do there. And so the second part of this 2-part question is, what cards, it could be spells, it could be buildings, it could be normal troops, what are some cards that you would love to see brought to merge from normal Clash Royale?
Yeah. So I've got one that I'll say in this video, and then I'm going to save the other one for my video. But I think that Battle Ram would be really cool, and I would want it to be Clan Assassin. So it would push things away. So it would go to the back of the arena and break on the wall. So like, now Assassins jump back and then everything kind of starts fighting. Like this would kind of push its way through and move things to the side or like replace them depending on where you put it. So it's kind of like the Prince ability in the sense that the Prince moves something. Like this would do the same, where it would charge back, hit the wall, and then 2 barbarians would pop out. And they both would be assassins at that point coming out. Obviously, their damage would have to be managed,
right?
So that they weren't too crazy. But I think that'd be pretty cool. I think it'd be fun to watch. And just the reason that I think assassin is because it's gonna immediately go to the back line like assassins do, and then barbarians are clan. So I think that would be pretty fun and a cool thing to watch because of your strategy of moving things to the side, so that like. Say you're doing assassins and throwers or blasters, you knock stuff to the side so that the executioner hits it. Like just the strategy that you could do to move things around with it, I think would be pretty fun from a strategic standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot you could do within that card. Like you said, they move troops out of the way. So now your positioning is all out of whack. And then maybe if there are buildings, well, hey, you drop a building down and now instead of going to the back, it's going to target a building, something like that. That could be really cool. Mine is funny enough, a similar troop. It was Elite Barbarians. So I think there's a lot they could do there because obviously those in normal Clash Royale have very high DPS, and so they'd have to manage that. And maybe they manage it by making their health low. So then maybe we give them something like Clan and Noble. I think that it fits in well, with the noble troops. I mean, because even Musketeer doesn't really seem that noble-y. It's not like a royal recruit, it's a royal giant or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it could fit well, but then you can kind of play around with it. So do you really want them to do high damage? Okay, well then put them on your back line, and then it'll give them the extra damage buff combined with the healing from Clan, and then they've got to be dealt with. Or, do you want them to be more of a tank, and maybe you don't need as much of that damage, but you want them to have higher HP, and obviously you get that damage reduction from being on the front line with nobles, and it would just allow you to have more crossovers between the two, 4 card comps. And I think that's something they did well this season, bringing in cards like Witch, that kind of crossed over between 2 4-card comps, because there weren't a ton of those, to be honest, last season.
Right.
And Brawlers was one that had a few, but of course Brawlers was so trash. But yeah, that's something that would be fun. I think it'd be, just to step your foot in the door of them there being multiple cards on the field at once. They didn't do that with archers. They didn't do that with barbarians. And maybe it's a single elite barbarian, but there is a space there where maybe because there's 2 cards, they can attack 2 different troops. So it walks up in between 2 troops, and then one turns and fights each. And then when you get 3 musketeers in there, they can shoot at 3. I'm getting ahead of myself there, but definitely I think we're both, hitting on something where we'd love to see new mechanics added with the cards and see them build out this game mode. Obviously that takes the development skills. So make sure you guys are supporting the mode, make sure you're playing it. That's the biggest way to let Supercell know you enjoy it. But that's all I got for this video. Thank you so much to MOLT for hopping on here and making this collab possible. Hopefully the first of many. I had a good time recording this. So keep your eyes out for this. Make sure you guys go over and first of all watch the video that's going to be in the description, but subscribe to MOLT's channels. He has his main and of course his new merge tactics channel, which is doing very well. So make sure you guys go over and check that out. If you enjoyed this, please drop a thumbs up if it was fun to watch. Subscribe if you have not already. I would really appreciate that. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.